Kinetic.
No, I don't.
Did you actually take it? If you bomb it, then give it to me. Do you have any other low grades? See, because what I'm telling you to do is if you know you're using my class, take it. See what you make. And if there's another quiz grade that's lower than that grade, then give me that and write which quiz you want me to use it on instead of that grade. Instead of just saying, put this in there. Okay? Because there might be something that's lower than what you're going to make on that. I mean, I'll gladly use it in my class, but I'd rather you take it and see what you get, and then say, okay, I did terrible, let me use it on that. Because so far, everybody who's just handed it to me has said, no, let me say it. I didn't do as bad as I thought I was going to do. So I'd rather you hold it first.
I didn't want to.
You can give me the card tomorrow. You don't have to give me that. You just have to have the quiz right after that.
What are we talking about?
ACT bootcamp passes.
They're so cute. I went, right? And then my dad apparently lost the gift card and all the passes. I'm just like, thanks, Dad.
Oh, yeah, I might want her dad.
Like, it's not like I went in there for like the third time. Doing that.
Alright, so
I want to sit down. You just have to. Right. It's not like we're taking off. It's not like that.
What you been eating, Miss Wall?
I haven't eaten anything, but somebody was using my wood gun to glue sticks together to make windmills. That's the only thing I can think of to spell that. Oh, and somebody ate tuna apparently, and that might be it.
That's right. When they hungry, they
I
hungry.
wasn't in here for most of it, but
Yeah, it's good. Stop.
And not just.
Sorry, you said it.
where's Cynthia? She's back there, she's not here.
That's what happens when you don't have a lot of food in your house.
I don't see her. Barley around. Barley in the hallway. Cynthia, you out there in the hall?
Yep, yeah.
I don't know, that's what I'm asking. If you look out there for a period, Barley is sitting here in the hallway. She there?
She's outside.
She might be outside.
She is. I seen her with my own eyes. All right. She did something.
Did she get your sister?
I'm not asking you to be in charge. I just wanted to know if she was here.
No, I put it.
Everybody's here. Cynthia's just like. Apparently finally dropped. All right, we have number one done?
Yes. Yes.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Sue. Say yes.
I was saying somebody else could draw.
You were saying somebody else could draw. I would volunteer.
You can take off that jacket. That's for me to wear at night too.
You're not even gonna be here very long. You're just waiting on
Where's the
it now.
peanut in here? Yeah, I gotta go too. Where do I draw?
So it's like the top skill,
Teachers, at this time, please release seniors whose last name begin with A through G only. They need to report to the cafeteria. Seniors whose last name begin with A through G only. Thank you.
That's that.
I don't have to deal with your
That's
attitude.
super sad.
These are the ones.
And this is sad. Is that right?
I'll be so pissed.
I need the action.
They were like, this is temperature.
Stay away.
And this is the grams of like water
per
100% right.
100 grams water.
Because I'm pretty sure you're not into the arts. So.
That's number 1.
All right, everybody have number 1? That's it.
What's that?
That's number 1.
Thank you.
So it's not the equilibrium saturated thing.
All right, everybody have it?
Everybody got it?
I got it wrong.
Next. Do you need it?
Yeah, so listen to it. I put the wrong one down, Linda. You want to die? Yeah.
I'm gonna go back. You got it, Craig?
It's basically the same thing. And Linda, yeah, one more time.
All right, number 2. How do we determine if the solution is saturated? Sorry, unsaturated. Let's skip one.
Less than the maximum solute dissolved.
Now, how are you going to know if it's unsaturated? You can't what? Patricia gave me the right answer. When it doesn't dissolve. How do you know if it doesn't dissolve? You can't see it. You can't feel it. There's nothing there. Okay? How can you tell if it's saturated?
You can see it.
You can see it. All right? You can see the material in the solution. It's sitting on the bottom. You can feel it sitting on the bottom. You can see it swirling in the solution.
Wait, I'm
Okay?
confused.
You're confused where?
Can you say it's not dissolved for number 2?
In order for it to be unsaturated, the solution has to be completely dissolved. So if you add sugar to a solution, guys, if y'all stop talking, you can probably hear me and not your classmates. Now, if it's unsaturated, how do you know it's unsaturated?
You can't see it.
You can't see it. It dissolves completely. So if you put sugar in water and it dissolves, Faith, how do you know it dissolved? You can't see it. Is it sitting on the bottom of the glass?
No.
No, that's how you know it's an unsaturated solution. It's not sitting on the bottom of the glass. You can't see it anymore. It's dissolved. If you make Kool-Aid, even for those of you who want syrup, all right, does the sugar dissolve?
Yes.
It should, okay? If you make it correctly with a little bit of hot water to begin with, all of the sugar will do what? It'll dissolve. And then you can fill it up with cold water and ice cubes or whatever you want to make cold Kool-Aid. Okay? Just a little bit to start with because you want the sugar to do what? Dissolve. Now, if you make it with all cold water, is your sugar going to dissolve?
Let's make some Kool-Aid for our Kim project.
Yeah, you should.
See, you can make the most.
Okay, my point is, if you use cold water to make your Kool-Aid, and the sugar's all sitting on the bottom of the beak or the pitcher, what kind of solution do you have?
Nasty.
Is it unsaturated or saturated? With all that sugar sitting on the bottom of the pitcher. It's saturated. Okay, it's a saturated solution. If you can see it and feel it sitting on the bottom of the pitcher. Okay? It's unsaturated if there's nothing there. It's gone. That's how you can tell the difference between unsaturated and saturated. Does that make sense? That's what I wanted you to tell me when I said not the graph. Okay? Because the graph, that's what Cecilia did up here. To be saturated, it's where on the graph? It's on the line. To be unsaturated, it's where? It's below the line. And to be supersaturated, it's where? It's above the line. Okay? How do you recognize if it's a strong electrolyte? All right, strong acid, strong base, and ionic compound. Everybody go with Patricia's answer? Yes. All right. And most of you did great with that question, even though you had a stroke about it on the quiz yesterday. They're graded. They're just not in the computer. Okay? I got them done right about 9:50.
What are you papers back out?
After today. All old makeup work is due today. So
And I'm taking my.
as soon as I have them graded this afternoon, they will come back to you tomorrow.
Are you done sitting in your chair?
Am I done sitting in my chair?
Yes.
Probably for a while.
All right, because, yeah.
All right.
How about we give you 5 minutes to put this resume?
How about no? All right, let's talk about like dissolves like.
Wait, I thought we were.
Shut up.
Oh, good homework.
I hate you.
I'm not checking it. We just need to go.
And I don't even get half of it. Like, how is it?
All junior marshals 1 through 11 should report to the auditorium at this time.
I gotta go.
The 3 junior marshals who have to go are already there. Y'all can sit still.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
I did not even know I was.
Oh, I don't know where.
She's in the 11 to 20.
I don't know.
All right, so if we look at the questions.
Because Rotary is trash.
No,
I know.
all right, question 1.
Good thing I'm checking so often. Probably my first period.
It doesn't matter. Which salt is least soluble at 20? All right, least soluble at 20. That is not what I wanted. I need my colors back. Where'd they go?
KCLO4.
All right, I have red again. All right, so is everybody okay at 20? We look where on the graph to find least soluble? At the bottom, right?
Yes.
So who's at the bottom?
KCLO3.
This is a 3 in case you couldn't read that right there. That's a 3. Okay? It's KCLO3. If you wrote 4, it's fine, but it's a 3. All right, number 2. How many grams of potassium chloride can be dissolved in 200 grams of water at 80 degrees Celsius? All right. I wrote that up there? No, I didn't. It's a different question. All right, so what do? What temperature did it give us?
80.
So 80 degrees.
Seniors' last name H through O, please report.
We have no seniors. All right, so 80 degrees. What compound did it give us? Potassium chloride. So which line is potassium chloride? KCl. So KCl is this line right there. All right, so what am I going to do? Go up from 80 degrees until I do what? Hit the line. So 80 degrees up to the line. Where do I go once I hit the line? Go to the solubility. Okay, so what is the solubility at 80 degrees?
50.
All right, so that's 50 grams. Kevin, stop talking while I am. That's 50 grams per what? Per 100 grams. Now, the question wants to know what? It wants to know per 200 grams of water. All right, so if the question wants to know per 200 grams, all that they did was double the water. So I don't know who said it. It sounded like Chris's voice, but I could have been wrong. It was Hallie's voice? All right, so all you have to do if they doubled the water is do what to the solute? Double it. So you've got 100 grams of water, or 100 grams of, potassium chloride in 200 grams of water. All right, so can we do number 3 now?
Yeah.
All right, so on your own, look at question 3 and find me the answer. While Kevin practices sitting still and quiet in his chair. Faith, try number 3.
I got you. You're so slack.
Do you have it?
I don't think so.
No, probably in here. Is that it? No, probably not. That's not it. This is such a fun time.
You never did that.
This is so fun. This is such a fun time. Let me tell you right now. I enjoy every second of this class. Okay, number 3.
You don't have to. So I need you to pay attention. You take it. Just right past it.
I'm not a speaker, but I'm still
But what? It was bad? Bad?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's crazy because you're in a bad year and my dream was really sad. And everybody's like, man, what's wrong? No, we were at school too.
All right, so what compound did they give us in this question? Potassium nitrate is which formula?
Okay.
Okay, who?
NO3.
NO3. So it's this one this time. All right, what temperature did they give us? 40. So when we go up to 40 to KNO3, this time it doesn't fall on a nice even line, so we have to estimate, right? What'd you estimate? 42, okay. So that's 42 grams per 100 grams of water. Now, we might not have all estimated the same. Some of you might have said 41 or 43, so adjust your answer accordingly. Now, this question said per how much water? 300, so this time we did what to the water? Times it by 3, tripled it. Either answer is good. So what are we going to do to the 42? Triple it. So what is that, 126?
Yeah.
All right, so if you had 43, you would have done 129. If you had 41, 123. All right, we okay with how to do that? All right. So, number 4. Which salt shows the least change? NaCl. Are we okay with that? What are you looking for on the graph for anybody who did not? The one that's the straightest, the flattest. Okay? Number 5. At 30 degrees and 90 grams of sodium nitrate dissolved in 100 grams of water, is it saturated, unsaturated, or supersaturated? All right, so we're looking at sodium nitrate. So sodium nitrate is this line right here. All right, we need 30 and 90 grams. So 30 and 90 is right there. All right, did that cross there?
What did you do?
I went 30 degrees and 90,
Okay.
which put me right there.
Okay.
Now, I think they're shooting for it being on the line, but is it on the line? I don't think so. I think it's below the line. And since it's below the line, I said it's unsaturated. Okay? I don't think it's on the line. Now, they may have been shooting for on the line, but it's not on the line. All right, number 6. A saturated solution of potassium chlorate is formed when 100 grams of water. If the saturated solution is cooled from 80 to 50, how many grams of precipitate are formed? All right, so they said potassium chlorate. So potassium chlorate is KClO. Oops, wrong line, stupid. Is this one. All right, so this one right here. And it said from what 2 temperatures? 80 to 50. So what have we learned to do for the most part when we have 2 temperatures this semester? I heard it. Subtract. All right, so I got a 50 and I got an 80. Now, what have we done when we've had 2 temperatures? Okay? But we're not just going to subtract the temperatures. It wants to know what is precipitated. So what do we need to find?
Solid.
We need to find the solute. Okay? So we're going to read over.
Solid.
And what solubility do we have for there? 40. And what solubility do we have for 50? 20. So we're going to subtract the solubilities. So 40 minus 20 is what? 20. So our solubility is 20 grams per 100 grams of water.
Wait, you on KCl, right?
I'm on KClO3 because it's a potassium chlorate, not chloride. So I'm on the KClO3 line.
Okay, I'm with you.
Okay. All right. Which compound shows a decrease in solubility?
NH3.
Okay, because it goes down, right? Which salt is most soluble at 10? Ki. Which salt is least soluble at 50? Good. All right. Number 10 is a tricky one. Which salt is least soluble at 90? NH3 is the answer I get most of the time. Here's a new definition for you that we're going to talk about when we do acids and bases. A salt is an ionic compound. Okay? A salt forms when an acid and a base react, but a salt is basically an ionic compound. Okay? So, if you know now that a salt is an ionic compound, now look at 90 degrees and tell me who is an ionic compound at 90 degrees. Huh? NaCl is the right answer. NH3 can't be the least because it's not what? It's not a salt. It's not ionic. It's covalent. Okay? We call NaCl salt because it is one of the most common ionic compounds, if not the most common. Okay? But NO3, KNO3, KCl, they're all salts. Ki, it's also a salt. Okay? Any ionic compound's a salt. Questions about how to read a solubility graph if you see one on the exam? Feel pretty good about it?
Yes, ma'am.
Fabulous. All right.
Where's tomorrow?
Say what?
Where's tomorrow?
Highly likely. And it will,
Yes.
I said it's highly likely. And it will be your last grade. If we have one.
No, you're kidding. Oh, that's not fair. I thought we
What's
were
not
doing
fair?
like a benchmark or something.
Oh, if I decide to count that, that would be on Tuesday.
Oh, well, let's not count it then.
I haven't decided. Like dissolves like. So we have 2 more things to do with solutions.
I just need straight up the section here, so basically it's like a 60.
All right, like dissolves like. And math calculations are the 2 things we have left to do with solutions. And we can easily do those today. And then that leaves us 2 topics left to do. Nuclear will probably take us 45 minutes to an hour, which is my plan for, really, I plan to do that Friday. And we're going to do some acid-base stuff tomorrow.
You have the schedule for Friday yet?
Yeah. Basically, you're in first period to like 11:30.
Jesus.
When, but we have.
And then you go to, you're at senior assembly for most of it.
Oh, well, say that because I thought the senior assembly didn't start till 11:30 or something. What time does it start?
It's like at 9, but you know, they'll start calling y'all down. First period is largely lost on Friday.
Good.
Because it's gonna be so freaking long.
And even though it ends at 11:30, that's not to say that we'll leave.
And we'll be sitting in class at 11:30. We'll
yeah.
be sitting in class.
You might be in first period longer than 11:30. That's an estimate.
Yeah.
It is possible, if it goes faster, that we will have, you'll be back in first period, but first period is scheduled to go to 11:30.
Didn't last year they had to sit out a new schedule because we went over so much?
No, they just extended it into third period. And then you go to third period and you're in third period through lunch. And then you come to me after third,
I don't like that.
which is an hour. And then you have an hour of fourth. Second and fourth are both an hour class. So since we have an hour, we should be able to do most of nuclear in that hour.
So they have the senior assembly because after they're going to their trip, right?
Yes.
And are we going to be in first period during that whole time?
You're in first period the whole time senior assembly is going on. From you come to first period like you normally do. You stay in first period until and through senior assembly. They'll send you back to first period for senior assembly after it's over. That way you don't need to take your book bags or anything to senior assembly, so it's not in the auditorium. Okay? But
Third period is the same.
third period is probably a little shorter. It's not a lot shorter. At most, it's probably 15 minutes.
Exercise on Friday.
Remember, they're running 3 lunches. The lunch ladies have to have time to reset the cafeteria and lunches. So about the shortest you're ever going to find third period is about 15 minutes. That's about it. It's the shortest they'll ever make third period. So out of an hour and 20 minutes, the shortest you're ever going to lose is about 15. So if you have third period with JROTC and exercise, I'm really sorry. Not a lot they're going to do for you.
What about with the kindergarten?
Do you have her third period?
On Friday, I will.
Pray for mercy.
I mean, we're not
Really make it
doing
happen.
anything really in her class.
Where do you go?
Home. Y'all think I'm coming to school Friday? No, I'm going to see my sister in Italy. Come back for third or second? I might, maybe. Okay.
You said okay.
Wait, I'm so
Watch the
sorry.
video on nuclear.
It's a-
Nuclear is an easy topic.
Watch
Okay.
No.
I'm just telling you, nuclear is an easy topic. So if you get a nuclear question, they're easy questions to get right. Okay? Instead of having to say, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. There will be questions on the exam that you're like, is this? Okay? That we've done. And you're like, I don't remember it. Did Miss Wall teach this? And the answer is, yeah, I taught it. And it's a blank slate. You just don't know it.
Yeah.
Okay? But nuclear is not one of those topics. Okay? Nuclear is easy. They're either going to ask you about nuclear decay, the type of radiation, or half-life. We can do all of that in an hour. Okay? It's not hard. Which is why I'm telling you, if you could be here Friday or watch the video, catch up on those because they're easy questions to get right. Okay? If you're going to miss something, don't miss nuclear decay questions or nuclear questions. Yes.
So wouldn't we go to third?
You'll go to third period after the senior assembly, which is roughly 11:30, 11:40. You'll stay there. I'm going to get you, Takira. I know. If you just need water, go get water. So 11:30 to roughly it's pretty close till 1:40-ish, 1:45 that we're in third period. Now, mind you, 30 minutes of that is lunch. So you're close to about an hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes that you're in third period. It's the way it always works. Third period never gets cut or very little because you got to run 3 lunches. I mean,
So we'll see you third.
you will see me third on Friday. Yes.
So we're gonna have lunch.
You will have lunch before you come to me.
Oh, before. Okay.
Yeah. You will have already had lunch by the time you see me on
I'm just
Friday.
saying, who knows?
Okay, so I also have another question before we start. So we have more than likely that quiz tomorrow, and that's our last.
That's your last grade, other than turning in youngings.
Okay.
Youngings are the absolute
And
last
then
grades.
you have to put in the bathroom extra credit,
Yep.
and then
And I will not do that until the Friday before exams.
okay, that's rude. Second, you have to do the when we stay with you point.
Yes. I will not do most of that until exam week. So the bathroom points will not go on until probably the Monday of exams. The extra credit for staying will probably not go on until the Tuesday of exams because one of them is the Monday exam day. Okay, so for those of you who are like Annabelle and trying to calculate your grades,
Yes.
okay, a lot of that will not happen until exam week. Okay, simply because I'm not putting bathroom passes on now because some of you will go to the bathroom in the next few days. Okay, so those I will not put on until the absolute last minute. Rosanna, hush.
She was asking how many tests we have for your class, like for the finals, and I was just like, the state exam, right?
Yeah, state exam.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're not allowed to give a teacher-made test and a state exam. We only give the state exam. Caleb.
What's the extra credit for staying?
Did we cover this?
Yes. If you stay,
Next Tuesday,
Tuesday, next
Thursday.
and then the Monday, like the day before the exam, say the first period, you come here at 12:30, and you stay for like an hour and a half, you get 0.5 on like your overall grade. So you could have a 68 in the class, you'll end up having a 70 in the class.
It's a fourth quarter. I add to the fourth quarter, not your semester grade. Fourth quarter.
Oh, that's good. I help your semester grade, right?
So if you do it 3 times, that's 2. It's like well, you weren't here for biology. Never mind. It wouldn't help you. You wouldn't understand it. What? For what?
Tuesday, Thursday, and the Monday before our exam, she's reviewing all 3 days.
You stuff on Friday?
I'm not ever staying on Friday. It's a religious holiday.
It's a religious holiday?
Which Friday?
This Friday.
Yes.
So we're not doing any more tests this Friday.
No, she doesn't say.
Oh.
I don't ever stay on Friday.
So can I say that and like be like, I'm not gonna do it, I don't know what I'm going to do.
I need a 68 in this class.
You need a what?
68. Before I start saying, then I'll have a 70.
What do you have now?
Well, I have that missing quiz, and anything's better than a 0.
Correct.
But I need 5, I have a 63. And you haven't put that quiz in, and I think I did good on it.
Okay. You did. It was 80 something.
Yeah, so that would probably go up. And then so I have a quiz today. So that's just 5 points. You think I could do it?
And then you're.
The bathroom points will help.
Yes, sure. We got the 2.
How much are the bathroom points?
And then.
All right. What?
How much are the bathroom?
If you have all 3 of them, it's 5 points per bathroom pass. So you could have a potential 15 points on your last test
Anyone
grade.
doesn't need their bathroom passes?
They're not transferable, which is why I don't hand them out.
That's stupid. Because some people, like Raquel, said she was going to the bathroom could help people out.
They're only there to help Raquel. They're not here to help you.
But any of them could help. That's so selfish of you.
I know. You're correct. It
Miss
is.
Paul, I got a question.
Yes.
So you said it's during, it's just for the fourth quarter.
It's only for
But the
fourth quarter.
fourth quarter and the third quarter grade, don't they go in together and then they put the exam? So if we got 2 90s then, and then we like get like a 70 on the exam, we still have an A as a final grade.
If you have 2 90s
That's a
and you
win.
make a 70 on the exam, your exam only counts 25%.
So if you still have a 90, not like I'm saying like a 90 something, not like a 90 something.
Oh. If you, it would depend numerically. You'd have to average it.
Yeah, like that's what I did. Look, I'll show you. This is what I did. No,
Yeah,
look,
I'd be a little suspect of that math if I were you. Yes.
Okay, so our class average, so we're average in the exam, is like, say like 96 or like 84, and we make higher.
It counts 50%.
So will it boost it up to an A?
Depends on how high your exam grade is.
Okay, say I got a 90 on the exam.
Not high enough.
For NABA classes?
So basically you have to make a.
If you have an 86
I would
at 50%, you need a 94 to bring it up to an A. You need 4 points. It's very, I'll be honest with you, it's very doable.
If my, class average is, my class average is at.
In this class?
Yes.
If it's an 88, you need a 92.
Okay, so the 92.
It's very doable.
That's 187.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. The chemistry exam has one of the smallest curves of all of the NCFEs. I mean, some of the NCFEs have a curve that is ridiculous. Okay? I mean, I've looked at them and I'm like, the kid got 7 questions right, and they got a 65? I mean, I'm like, dang. Ours is not curved that way. Okay? The higher you score, the less the curve. The lower you score, the greater the curve. I'll just be honest. That's the way it works across the board, state test wise. Our curve is the smallest curve in the building. All right, I don't know if it's designed that way, but it just is. So if you score and you get 38 questions out of 40 right, okay, that's going to be a 90-some% to begin with. You might see a 2-point curve. Okay, it's not a great curve. But if you score 15 questions out of 40, 15 out of 40 is an F every day of the week. Okay, you might get a 30-point curve. Okay. That's the way the curve is designed, okay? But that's still not a great exam score. That's not going to save some people.
I feel like this exam's
For a lot of you, it is. We should do very well, particularly if we can keep moving. Now,
We just had a quick little stress moment.
try not to worry about your grades and just try to do as best as well as you
Try not to worry
can.
about my grades, baby. That ain't gonna happen.
Why did I say like results like
All right, so
Wait a minute, well, sorry. Is this gonna be like the rest of this page, or I need to start another page?
you might be able to fit it in. I would probably start a new page.
Well,
With the examples, I don't think you can fit it in. The rules will fit there.
okay, that'll, I swear.
This is called.
Solutions. We're still doing solutions. Okay, this is the last of our notes on solutions. Then we're going to calculate.
Like dissolves like.
Yep. Now, when we talk about like dissolves like, this has to do with solutes and solvents.
I don't get it.
Polar solutes dissolve polar solvents. Okay? So the rule of thumb, like dissolves like, comes from the fact that polar dissolves what? Polar. So that means non-polar. Go ahead back there. Dissolves non-polar. Okay? Non-polar solutes dissolve non-polar solvents. Now, the struggle comes in when we add in two other things, which are ionic compounds and alcohols.
That does bring it.
Alcohol.
That does bring it different.
All right. Ionic compounds dissolve in polar solvents. And the last one.
What?
All right. Ionic dissolve in polar.
You okay? Sound like a little. What you doing? Okay. Holding my sneeze.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or loud.
You know what? I hate all of
Yep.
Alcohol.
I'm trying not to bruise myself when I fall down there.
Miss Bar, you need to just.
Hey, remember how you said if you
She
get
just be wrapping
if
bubble
you get
wrap.
that stuff on
That's
you,
what
you'll have
Bible
brown
says all the
spots on
time.
you?
I need bubble wrap.
Why are you so?
Remember how you said if you get that stuff on you, have brown spots on you?
Yeah.
I had it. It was on my arm right here. It's still kind of there. Can you see it?
Yeah, it'll fade over time.
Yeah.
I'll say she really just bruise on her arm.
Are they gone now?
Yeah, they are. They're gone. I have to mow again this weekend, though, so I'm a little worried.
Oh, God.
Are you mowing?
She's gonna be like, yeah.
Just the yard.
Why are you mowing it? He's
You have
blind.
a whole two
He's
kids.
blind for real?
Huh?
Two, so you got a new eye.
I have a new eye.
I did. Although I do gotta get mowing ski goggles, though, so it doesn't injure it. So it looks a little ridiculous in the yard.
Wait, why don't you make it easy?
Well, we're training Ian, but
They can do it right, doesn't he?
no, he does not do it right. And trying to get him to go in a straight line is sort of interesting.
That's what, like, my dad hates mowing because he has really bad allergies, and so he tried to get me to do it one time. I did it so wrong, now I just get someone, one of his workers to do it. Because Mary Lloyd, God, if she got two lawnmowers, it'd be terrible. And she thinks she's little quiet, so.
Almost somebody saying $50.
No, we're still working with Ian, but it's,
No, they gave up on me.
it's sort of humorous to watch him mow the yard.
They gave up on me. Maryland, Abby was too young, and Maryland's a spoiled brat, so.
He can't mow a straight line. All right. So,
I'm tired of it.
all right. So you would get a question about this, asking which of the following will such and such dissolve in.
Yes.
So,
Right, what she said.
will KCl dissolve in water?
Yes.
All right, how do we know?
Because
Kids.
it's ionic
It's
and
a strong-
So that
slow
means-
and cold.
Okay. Now, for those of you who do not know that H2O is polar, I would tell you to memorize that. Okay? H2O is polar. If you don't know it, I'd memorize that one. All right? The reason it's polar, for those of us who have forgotten, if we draw its Lewis structure, it has what? Has lone pairs in the central atom. All right? And yes, we'll go through that through review over time. All right? We'll talk about how to draw the Lewis structures, the geometries, and all that again. All right? So, it has lone pairs on the central atom, which is why it's polar. So, if this is polar, all right, what do we say?
Polar.
Polar dissolves polar, and polar dissolves what? Ionic. Now, how do we know what that is? It's that simple. It's a metal, and it's a non-metal. So it's ionic. So, it will dissolve. Now, 2 vocabulary words for you. I don't know if you'll see them or not. Miscible and immiscible. Miscible means will dissolve, and immiscible means will not dissolve. So instead of saying which of the following will dissolve, they might say which of the following is miscible. Okay? So if they use the word miscible, it's the same thing as which of the following will dissolve.
Miscible is dissolved.
Yep.
Miscible, like a missile?
No.
What's the, we learned something.
Well, I spelled that really wrong. No, I didn't.
If you thought it was a missile, I'm a little worried.
I spelled it MISSIBLE.
There's only one S.
I'll get it.
Just change one of the S's to a C.
I'll understand it.
Oh my God. What's mixable?
Okay.
Well, have you ever had a bagel shop?
I'm not big on bagels. I know, it's a crime.
Well, they have a lot of other stuff now because they like completely remodeled there. It looks so good. They
Does
got
the
like
Antonio family still?
hot dogs, paninis. It's like a little deli kind of.
Yeah.
Towards lunch, you got soups. Crazy. Lexington is evolving, and I'm really pissed that we got named worse for city in North Carolina. Like, have y'all ever been to Benton? Like, or Thomasville?
We got named one.
The worst city to live in North Carolina.
How?
I don't know.
I mean, it's a little boring, but nothing really happens.
Because we have the poverty rates. That's what it is. Like,
We don't have a lot of jobs
yeah.
compared to like. Texas.
So we have
All right.
God.
That is a problem.
All right, so we want to figure out
You're getting lazy with your writing. I'm struggling to read it.
It's not that hard to read. Stop being
I think I
hard
heard
to read.
any worse.
But I feel like.
Maybe I need to show you your quiz from yesterday.
Was it good? You said it was good.
Your handwriting wasn't all that stellar.
Oh.
Miss Long.
You used to just write so
What's
short.
BR2 covalent?
Huh?
What's BR2?
That's what we're gonna talk about. All right, so if we want to figure out whether they're miscible or immiscible, all right, what can you tell me about NaCl?
Yes.
All right, so we're starting with something that's ionic.
Is it methanol gas?
All right, what's CCl4?
Calcium chloride.
Really?
Carbon.
I was gonna say the same.
Calcium chloride.
Carbon chloride. Miss
All
Walker.
right, it's carbon and chloride. We had to write its name, just out of curiosity, since Dllution's over there writing its name. All right, how would we write its name?
Chloride.
Carbon 4 chloride. The only one that does not get a Roman number is group 1, group 2, zinc, silver, or aluminum.
Okay.
So you gotta put a Roman number. Could we name it with a prefix? Could we name it with a prefix? Carbon tetrachloride. Why could it be named with a prefix? It's covalent. Very good. All right. For those of you who've forgotten that, we'll hit the highlights and review there too. All right. So carbon tetrachloride if we were naming it. Now, you said it's covalent.
Yes.
So if it's covalent, what can we figure out about it?
So is
Is it what or what?
Polar.
Is it polar or non-polar? All right. Because you said it's covalent, all right, it has to be either polar or non-polar. It's one of the two. Okay, as soon as you said covalent, it's either polar or non-polar. The question is, which one is it? How do we decide?
non-polar. The Dllution structure.
Okay, you'd have to draw the Lewis structure. Okay, now, when you draw it,
There's no lone pair.
there's not going to be any lone pairs because you got 4 chlorines. So there's no lone pairs, so it's non-polar. Okay, so if it's non-polar, will it dissolve something that's on it? No. Now, it will not dissolve. How do you think? Anybody got a guess?
Gas.
Nope, it's not a gas.
No, well, it is gas, right? Like,
It's what? It is a hydrocarbon, but that's not what I'm looking for.
It's an alcohol.
How do you know it's an alcohol? What?
Oh.
It ends in OL.
Is that actually a spectrum?
Oh.
Okay, it's that simple.
Wait a second.
It ends in OL.
Joyce.
It's in. Now, I didn't write it. Vodka does not, it has another name. All right, so all alcohols end in OL. They have a functional group. It's called OL. All right, so if it ends in OL, it's an alcohol. So, will an ionic compound dissolve in an alcohol?
No.
No.
What if like every single like alcohol you buy at the ABC store ended in OL, like vodka, Svedkol,
Get her out. Anyway,
Moving on. Yeah.
why does
Smirnoff.
the alcohol freeze?
It has a lower freezing point.
Drunk.
When you look at its freezing point, melting point, and boil point, it just has a lower freezing and melting point than water. All right, so water. We already know what about, about water. We already know it's polar, okay? So if we know this is polar, what do we know about an ionic compound?
It will dissolve in polar.
It will dissolve in a polar liquid, okay? Now, what do we know about BR2?
It's a liquid.
It is a liquid, that's good. We remember that off the periodic table, that's good.
It's the thingy.
It's the thingy, what's the thingy?
Bromine.
It is diatomic, that's good. We remember that.
Oh,
It's covalent. All right, so if it's covalent, what do we know?
Struggle on that game.
It's polar.
All right, it has to be polar or non-polar.
It's polar. There's no middle atom.
All right, so it's one of the two. How do we know it's non-polar?
You told us one time.
I told you one time. That's good that you remember I told it to you. Because you're correct, it is non-polar. Can anybody give me the reason I told you it was non-polar?
No.
It's what? It's linear. It's diatomic. All right, there's no central atom, so what would we do to find? What's in the atom? And what do we do with the electronegativities? And what do you do when you subtract? You get what number? You get 0. And if it's 0, that means it is. So if it's non-polar and ionic, what do we get? No, they will not dissolve. Questions? Y'all are not a lost cause. I'm telling you, we can rock this exam.
Sure.
Exam
Don't get me.
Y'all don't make me look good. I am going to be crushed when these scores come back.
I'm gonna crush.
What are the scores?
Y'all are gonna be going home for the summer when I get the scores.
Oh. You're not gonna catch yours. Right. And she don't see us in school the next year. She goes,
All right. Everybody feel okay about that? Because we're gonna calculate the rest of the day. Grab a calculator.
grab a calculator.
You need a periodic table and calculator.
Somebody grab that. It's a long way. Anybody, you're healthy and living.
So get your calculators and your periodic table. We're gonna learn 2 new formulas.
I see what you left me.
Barely.
No, move, damn.
Slim ducks.
First before you heard something.
That's bullying. That's harassment.
I'm bullying Noah. Ow.
Everyone kidding me.
You was talking about Caleb and Noah. First of all, Linda, you can get beat up. This wall, Linda's bullying.
Don't beat up Linda.
But she's bullying me.
Linda, stop bullying Faith.
I don't bully you. Who took you to work yesterday?
Okay, but you just told me no one likes me.
Oh, that's mean, Linda.
I didn't mean it.
You didn't mean it. You
They
didn't.
think they don't.
All right, does everybody have what they need?
Sure.
They get your calculator.
No. I don't like. I always say what I
Let's
mean.
sprint over there and get one.
You could go there now when they even don't worry about me. I got
I don't appreciate you bullying me, so.
I don't bully anyone.
Yes, you do.
All right.
Y'all, I don't work tonight.
No one cares.
All right, so the last thing we're doing with solutions is calculating concentration. Because we have to. Now,
Wait, then we're doing concentration?
yep. So, concentration is essentially number of particles in a volume. Now, once upon a time, we used to calculate 3 types of concentration. There's actually 4. The state took out normality, I think, almost my first year of teaching. So normality's been gone for almost 30 years.
Whoa.
Percent by mass and molarity has been gone for somewhere in the ballpark of 7 years. All right, and we only have 1 type left that we have to calculate. So you're very fortunate in that you only have to know 1 type. But for those of you who might one day take advanced science classes in college, I know Raquel's going to because she said she wanted to be a surgeon. So you will have to learn the other, at least 2 types, possibly all 3 types that we're not doing. All right?
I can't wait to see where you go in life.
All right.
Never block.
But molarity is the one that you're required to know for the exam. All right? Molarity is defined as the number of moles of solute over liters of solution. SOLN is the abbreviation for solution.
Math.
Yep.
Molarity equals.
Yes.
Minus.
Equals. I thought I had an equal there. Sorry.
Solution.
Liters of solution. Now, I'm not going to write that out every single time because that's a whole lot to write in the formula. So, big M is the abbreviation. Equal moles over L is the shorthand. Solution. I've already said that like 4 times. Stop talking and y'all can hear me. All right, big M is molarity. Equal moles over liters. Now, if you looked at the bottles that you used on Monday, they said things like 0.1 M. All right, 0.1 M stood for molarity. All right, if you remember your equilibrium problems, they had numbers. Addison, stop talking. All right, like 0.0058, and it said moles per liter. What was I talking about? I was talking about molarity. Okay? Now, you can write the units either with big M or moles per liter. It does not matter. I tend to write big M because it's less and I'm lazy. All right? But either is fine. This is the shorthand for that formula. If you forget the formula, if you look on page, I think it's 3 or 4 in your reference tables where it has the list of formulas, this formula is on the page. Okay? So you can look it up if you forget it. Okay? Now, I don't need to give you any more information about this because you have all the skills you need to solve with molarity.
No, we don't.
Oh, yes, you do.
I mean, what else is she gonna tell us?
I don't need to tell you anything. You already know everything.
She just quoted.
Oh, what's the unit?
I already gave it to you.
It's in, right?
That's not the unit though. The answer.
Shirley, I have some problems.
Surely it's 11 o'clock, but it's not. It's
I don't think I do. I'm gonna have to make them up. You're gonna have to deal with my bad handwriting, I'm afraid.
Oh.
Let's try this.
What do you want to be? When I'm older.
Y'all might have to deal with my bad handwriting.
Yeah, what are you gonna go to school for? Depends on what school I get.
There we go.
It's like, if I go to Marine Valley.
All right, write it down.
If I go to Wilmington, then I'll be able to do that. There's so many opportunities to do there.
Write it down. Nobody cares.
You found it?
Not at this moment, we don't care. How about that?
This wall. Don't
What do you see me doing? This is where it gets honest.
I don't really have a clue.
Chick-fil-A manager.
They have more than a lot of people do, I swear.
I'm telling you, if you can stomach being a fast food restaurant manager, they make pretty good money. And you can deal with the hours. And if you can work, deal with the hours.
Miss Wall, what did you work, like, did you have a part-time job?
Mm-hmm.
What did you work at?
I was a cashier in a grocery store.
Like a Food Line or like Old Dixie?
Huh?
Old Dixie?
Winn-Dixie.
That's my dad worked.
Yeah, Winn-Dixie.
Maybe I worked together.
I worked in Greensboro, so I doubt it.
Oh no, he worked where the old person home is right now.
Gotcha.
Miss Wall, we have to convert this. I know you work with a man.
So I said, you have all the skills you need to solve. It's all about being able to read the formula and use what you know. Now, the vast majority of you.
668 is something.
Glucose.
Yeah, that's the
Now, the vast majority of you can look at this question and already tell me what to do.
No.
The formula that we just wrote down said moles over what? Liters. The question wants polarity, so this has to be in what? Moles. This has to be in liters. Now, you have all of the skills. This is nothing new. I'm not teaching you anything.
I forgot how to do moles and grams.
So grams, what goes on the bottom? What goes on top? What goes beside moles? How do we get the mass that goes on the bottom? 12, 1, 16. I'm not using decimals. 180.
Hold on.
Miss Wall. Y'all really tried that. Miss Wall, I went to work yesterday and he was like, can you do math off the top of your head? And like, let me tell you, when it took me like 10 minutes to do it, like, I was like, what is it? I just had to use my hands. It was really difficult.
Where do you work at?
Sonic.
Oh.
Why did you have to do math?
What did he want you to do?
I'm a car hop, so he like when people do cash and stuff, I'm gonna have a little calculator on me. Forget that. Cause like when they order something big and stuff and give me like a 20, like 220s, I'm like, what's that? I'll be like, I don't know what's your change, man.
Wait.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, my mom yells at me when, the total comes out like $7.05 and I hand people $12.25 because I don't have, the right change and I don't want back a bunch of ones and change. And I'm like, okay, they ought to be able to do this. I know. And I don't have a nickel, so I'll give them a quarter. And I'm like, well, they ought to be able to figure out they just need to give me 20 cents back. And they stand there and look at me like,
I hate when you do that. Like, no, I hate when I change your
I don't know what to do with
and
this.
they gave me like a 20 and they didn't give me the change yet, so I press tender and then it tells me that I changed it again, and then they're like, oh, I have 25 cents. Then I gotta do that.
I know.
I always get it wrong.
That's
And they're like,
like-
I
that's
need
another
5 more
thing.
pennies. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't count.
Cause like, that's what I'm used to. Like, just put in exactly what they gave me, and it's like, okay, cool. They need number. I give
Yeah.
back. No, you're not.
I usually have to tell them what they owe me.
If you could come and
If
tell
you
me
had
exactly what
5 cents.
I owe you, but you just give me your change and stuff.
Why did you give me 12 for?
Right, what is
Just you wanted a 5.
I wanted a 5 back and not 3 ones. And then if I gave him the quarter, just give me 2 dimes. I don't want 95 cents back. What?
Somebody paid me yesterday at work $10
Oh,
Yes, it was like $10.
I wouldn't even
Everybody go have some
count
school.
So they gave me about $4 in quarters, about 3 in dimes. The rest was like in
I feel like I have
I would have said this.
I had to sit there.
Don't you work at Taco Bell? Oh my God.
I would be like, you know what? I trust you. I'm gonna put this in here.
Camera right there, you know what?
You did that wrong, Swall. Absolutely.
Yep, I did.
On the bottom.
I did. You're right.
Was it over?
No.
I hate you.
They weren't even open.
I know.
Old people make me mad. Give me my senior discount. They get on my nerves.
Right, like we don't even have a senior drink, and they're like, "Can I get a senior drink?" And I'm like, "This is small," and they're like, "Well, it's free," and I'm like,
No.
and they're like, "Okay, well then just give me the small." I'm like, "That's what I was gonna do." But I don't say that. 'Cause that's not Chick-fil-A.
That's edible.
That's it, though. That's one summer I want to go live at the beach and work at gigs. So bad.
I can so see that.
Yeah. They probably don't make much though, 'cause they don't get tips.
They don't.
I got $6.
Why on earth would you go to a restaurant that their sole purpose
Have
is
you
to
heard of
insult you?
Yeah, I've been there. They told me I look like I farted in the bathtub, but eat my own bubbles. I was like, oh.
My sister's little hat said that she gave the baseball team mono. Mine was I still wet the day. And then Ruby's was Ellen Keller does my makeup.
That's the unit.
Bella's
Remember, this
was-
is just the variables. That's the unit that goes on the answer.
Something really mean
And
about
that
my
means
body.
Molarity, right?
All right. Anybody lost in what we did?
I break it down.
All right. So what if we flip the problem and I ask you to do this?
I don't know.
What's the difference?
Miss Wall.
Oh, that's easy.
Oh,
that's easy.
I know. What?
Yeah, no, I don't get it. So.
That's just
Go say it. What did I spell wrong?
that's just 1.5
Why you spelled no name wrong?
No one's like,
No one has to. Is that right?
No, I need it.
Is that right?
You
No.
have to find the grain.
The unit's wrong and you didn't find the grains.
Wait, what?
I guess so. Can I get some?
So, like, do you think they'll like yell at me if like someone like customers?
If you're going to work in the fast food industry, people are going to yell at you. Dude.
Oh, like I mean, like it's not my first job.
Text our little Chick-fil-A support, and like the woman was working, it's there, and she was working, she was asleep. She's the one that gets all those texts. I don't know why they do it to her, but she just feels bad. This woman sent us 4 paragraphs, with like 3 images, that she didn't have the sauce for a nugget. Her fries weren't filled to the fill line. I mean, they were filled to the fill line, but they weren't spilling out, and that's why she likes them. And then her nuggets didn't have the crispy ends to it, you know, like Chick-fil-A has. And I like those too, but I don't freaking complain about it.
I took them all off.
She's like, my chicken nuggets have the crispy ends to them. I didn't have a sauce per nugget. My fries.
Who needs a sauce per nugget?
I don't know. And then she was like, I did my math, and according to my calculations, I was paying a quarter per fry, and I don't approve of that. Baby, you burnt. Fries aren't $6. Obviously, you can't do math. She was, her name was Kelly.
Can I get these back?
Yeah.
Kelly.
All right.
Kelly.
So find the answer. Tell me what I do, Caleb.
No, I love you, Caleb.
It wasn't a rhetorical question, nor was I speaking Spanish. You got time to wander the room. I assume you haven't done.
I know it.
Wait,
I know you know it, which is why I didn't call on you.
Miss Wall, if he says no habla English, that means he doesn't speak English. So obviously you weren't speaking Spanish.
I know.
He said,
Come on, tell me what I need to do.
Repeat the question.
I asked how do I solve the question. Go on.
Can I go with it out?
First of all, you gotta.
Y'all need to burn. Come on, 'cause I'm really-
Okay, what am I converting?
500 milliliters into liters.
So 0.5 liters, okay?
Yeah. And then you're gonna put that on the 1.5 M.
Uh-huh.
Mole over 0.5.
Good. You're on a roll. Keep going.
You're cross multiplier, right?
Fabulous.
Beautiful.
Okay, keep going.
And then you put 0.75 over 0.5 and divide.
You had me till you did that. You're almost there.
Look, I don't know how.
You were almost there. What did I ask you
Moles
for?
of grams, moles of grams.
There you go.
And then you put it over.
You were almost there.
That boy
Caleb,
Now, I can almost guarantee you if this was a state test question, that the 0.75 would be an answer. Okay? It will be an answer choice. And it will say grams on it. Because the question wants to know how many grams. Okay? Now, the key is to not stop at moles. When you get there, the question wants grams. So change it from moles to grams, which we all know how to do. Caleb was just feeling the heat back there with everybody staring at him. All right? Because he knows how to do it too. Moles to grams. What goes next to moles? 1. And what do you do to find grams? Add it all up. And it's 40. So 0.5 times 40 should be 30 grams.
Wait, what? No, it should be 20.
3/4 of 40 and 3/4 of 40, 30.
I thought you said 0.5 of 40.
Yeah, you said 0.5.
Oh, I said 0.5, I meant 0.75.
That's why I was like.
Okay,
it'd be
0.75.
Silly. 0.75.
Huh?
How does it get 0.75?
Because Caleb said 1.5 times 0.5, so in half of 1.5, 0.75. Did I do it wrong in my head?
No, I got the same answer.
Okay. I was doing it in my head, so I could be wrong.
Miss Wall, the 40 grams came from NaOH.
And came from NaOH. Everybody okay with that? All right. Last equation. All right. Dilution. Hey. I actually wrote the formula there. I don't need that.
Your solution.
So we don't write it?
Yeah, you don't have to write that. All right. Dilution. When I made all of those bottles that y'all used on Monday, for the most part, I take what we have and I dilute it. For example, I buy 12 molar HCl. Okay? That's what I buy. It's cheaper that way. I do not buy 0.1 molar, 6 molar, 3 molar, whatever molarity I need for the year in all these separate bottles. All right? I just buy 12 molar HCl. And it comes in a big jug, and I keep it in the acid cabinet in the back. So once I buy that 12 molar, Madison, I know you hear me, I'm loud. If I stood over there by Patricia, she'd be cringing, telling me to move because I'm blowing out her eardrums. Okay, she's done it. So hush. Now, when I have this 12 molar HCl and I need to make 6 molar or I need to make 0.1 molar, and 0.1 is what y'all used on Monday, I just dilute it down to the molarity I need because that one bottle will hold us for about 5 years. Okay? So, the formula we need for dilution is this one right here. M1V1 equals M2V2. And again, this one is on your reference table if you forget it. It's kind of like which ones?
B1s, B1s, T-Boils.
Just like Boyle's Law, Charles' Law, Gay-Lussac's Law, and Combined Gas Law. It most resembles Boyle's Law, like you said. Now, again, the same rules apply that apply to the gas laws, and I wrote it under it. The units just have to do what? They just have to match. So your volume units don't have to be in a particular unit. It can be in milliliters. It can be in liters. They just have to match.
That's what I hate.
What? What, for dilution? There's not really a definition. Typically you go from something more concentrated to something less concentrated. Okay? Everybody got it?
Yeah.
All right, so here's a typical sample problem. Now, how will you know it's a dilution question?
Because it has
Solution.
HCl.
See how you have HCl and you have HCl?
Yes.
That's how you will know it's dilution. Now, there's something else that I will show you and talk about through the review called titration. We haven't done titration. You can use this formula to do titration unless the balanced equation has a coefficient in it. Hopefully they won't do that to you. If it does, oh well. Hope for the best.
So,
I mean, we have time during the review for me to show you how, and I'll be glad to do that. I don't have to.
Miss Wall,
So where did you get this chair from?
I actually was on a team that won it because Miss Love was able to win it in a competition with the staff.
Did she had to beat somebody up? Was that like the competition?
No, she had to dance and shake harder than anybody else did.
Oh wow!
And she did.
What? Miss Love? My girl got done in therapy. No, so she like the type that wouldn't dance. That's why I'm like.
She like
surprised.
Serious
face.
Or
No, she would be like, she probably, I can see her be like, no.
Right. That's why I'm so surprised.
No, she said she needed the new desk chair, so she did. But
She gave it to you.
no, everybody on the team got it. We all had to do certain things, and she's the one who did the last thing that got us all the desk chair.
What'd you do?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I just remember that. I don't remember. It was probably 3 years ago now.
You was like right along with them as well.
I remember I did something with a cookie and I wasn't very good at it. I had to roll the thing down my face to eat it.
Oh, you put it on your eye and you gotta blink and get it in your mouth.
Yeah,
My
couldn't
East
do
group does that sometimes.
Hey, Noah.
All right, everybody got it? All right, so when you read this, just like you do the gas laws, all right, again, you're looking for a couple or a pair. Find the piece of information that's together. So where is the volume and the molarity together?
350.
That's right. Okay, see how it says 350 of 0.75? Those two have to stay together. It doesn't matter if you make them M1 V1 or if you make them M2 V2. It is completely optional as long as they're together. Okay, that's the only catch. They have to stay together. I'm just going to make them M1 and V1 just because I'm doing it arbitrarily. So that'll be M1. 350 will be V1. And then that 12 molar, since it's a molarity, I'm going to put it in for M2. And then I'm looking for V2. All right, I need V2. I'm going to divide both sides by 12. Divide by 12. V2 equals. And get an answer. And you've got your volume. The units have to match. The calculator wants to put it on. Is what? 20.8 is good. I heard the 8. I couldn't hear the
And
first
this
number.
would be in volts.
No, because we're finding volume, it has to match. And so the volume was in milliliters, so that volume has to be in milliliters. Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
Think we can practice?
Before it's different things.
Right.
Huh?
I like this.
Yeah, these formulas are easy. All right.
This looks like all this time.
Oh.
Yeah, but you've learned all this stuff, so you're just putting it together now. Here, Annabelle, since you're up acting like a fool.
So we do have to do this.
Odds are highly favorable.
What? Is it on today and yesterday?
She's always up there. Your friend.
But you're on solution.
She's so bully. Hey, Annabelle, on your way back.
No.
I don't like any of y'all in this class. Yeah, I don't. Apparently.
You move faster than
What
anybody
I do.
in this class. You won't get one
Oh my God.
Tired of everyone.
Thank you. Except for
You were on this like.
Really?
everybody on this side of the
She's like, y'all don't know my time, so I'm gonna be everybody. I say what I want. Whatever. What if we didn't like? Whatever. Whatever. We don't know.
All right, everybody got 2 pieces of paper.
okay.
I got one.
All right, let's go to Annabelle slow.
I didn't say.
Right next to over here.
Bitch, I'll cook.
Really?
I need one of yours.
Oh, Annabelle.
Do you so All right. On the one that Annabelle gave you, the math one, there's 2 sides. We're not doing both sides. All right, we are only doing, let me see. I want to do the back side, the 1 through 7. Okay, we're not doing the front. We're only doing the back. So we're doing the chart that I gave you and the back side of 1 through 7. Okay?
Wait, what? Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Can I just cross these out?
I know you got your lunch and everything. Yeah, we're not doing it all, so I don't care if you mark it out.
Okay.
Yay, I love doing that.
In my defense.
We will be eventually, but I doubt we do today. We'll just see how we do time wise.
Duh. Well,
Duh, what? What? How do we do what now? What are you doing again?
Abusing people and they getting them in trouble.
I think you should write 12 up there because I'm on breaking 12.
That sucks for you.
Can't relate.
I got my work.
Okay, you wanna die?
yeah, I do.
This is still exam week. Technically, you have, let me count.
Oh, I'm only working until Monday. And the 7th I have a personal day, so I'm not technically working.
No, because listen,
I'm doing up for graduation.
you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yes, but I'm not working Friday, so you can take out Friday.
So you have 11 days. That's accounting weekends and Memorial Day. That's how many days we have left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have 13 days till the exam.
My group of 3 back there, are y'all working or just hanging out so far? I expect to see some work when I walk back there.
All right.
I'm assuming since he's back.
I wish I could write really pretty, but you can't. Sassy. She just all said.
Hit her in the eye.
Throw it.
Beat her up.
Dude, I'm just gonna sit on you. You're not getting back up.
She cut me this long. That's why I first at her. So can you get her? Look, she cut me and then now she's trying to abuse me.
I ain't cutting you.
If you sit down, shut up, it just works. Hey, you do this work also.
Yeah.
Really? I can tell.
Yeah.
Easily fine. You don't hear me doing
Ow! Why are you confusing me? Miss Wall. Oh. This is probably decimal. The first one. Was it 337? Oh my God, Miss Wall, hurry up because the one that did something wrong. Okay, probably I did it right there, and you probably did it wrong. So what's
with you?
You forget to It's okay. My own mom doesn't love me. She gave birth to me, so.
What did you do wrong?
Miss Wall,
Did y'all get
Just work.
Okay. What did I do wrong?
Miss Wall? I haven't even got this in scientific notation. So tell me about
Okay,
it.
so now you get moles. And once you get moles, then you're gonna plug into your molarity formula, and you need moles over what? Liters. So change that to liters. And do moles over
Linda,
liters.
I was right. You suck.
what?
0.668.
She said I was
That's
right.
negative.
97, you have 98.
I don't know why it's not giving me a regular answer.
I wouldn't give that, I'd show you about 97 to 98 for a max.
Miss Wall,
Yep.
But I'm more right than you.
look at my
so
calculator.
what's good?
What about?
Like,
Okay, obviously, you know, it's not.
If you would change that to liters instead of leaving it in 500 milliliters in it.
Oh, really? For why, sister?
That's why it's not coming up right.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So I would just do five. Oh.
I'm so Hey,
So here,
it's so
this one-
Okay, I got 0.66.
that was.
No, I don't know why.
well, I wasn't going to say that
But I
because
don't know why, 'cause I don't have it. Your mass rate 3.4.
you got this. Totally.
98.
Is that not how that
Because
usually
you say you
works?
got 0.6 something.
So you gotta change milliliters to liters.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Divide by a cow.
31.
I know how to add it.
And then
30.9 really should run 31. Yeah, so 1 times 16 is.
What time is number one?
31. And then 98.
Wait, what is it? Oh.
what do you mean you got 0.66?
Gospel.
Or maybe you could just help me, you know?
Maybe I need 7.
Because I honestly didn't understand it when they did it.
Calcium.
Are all of these balls off of liters?
Yes. If they're molarity.
Is it no problem?
You know, I'm not an expert in
I don't know what this is. Take this off. It's this thingy.
Yeah.
But why is there a 13? Why do you have these decimals?
I don't know how far it should go.
You went too far.
What?
Now, put it in
Yes, that's correct.
No.
Where'd you get the point? 336.
Alright, who else has questions? Yeah.
Wait, is the second one, that's how to do a 3-step chart?
No, there's no 3-step charts on any of this.
You go from moles to moles to grams.
There's no moles to moles. I mean, you're just going moles on the bottom of the grams.
Yeah.
No, Jack?
Yeah.
Yes. You're right there.
What's the?
I mean, there's nothing on state test. Okay. If you want to keep that, we'll just go to one place.
You're more than me. I'll be looking for you anyway.
I haven't done that.
3 days.
3 weeks.
It's been 3 weeks. That's good. That's good. I don't think it's been 3 weeks.
It has. I think.
Get mold.
I realized I lost my
Alright, who rang? How is your?
It never freaking worked.
Yeah.
I'm really confused.
This
can't be grants, because they just asking for.
But those arms get cut open.
That's right there.
Oh.
That's mold. So whatever you get when you multiply is mold.
I mean, it depends. Like, you gotta be angry when you do it. So, like, then you can't,
I'm never angry at you.
I know, that's what I mean. Like, gotta be, like, angry about it when you do it. So then, like, you don't feel less. Like,
It's all
or, like, the deeper you cut, the less, like, the less you feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like damn, like I feel like damn. That's how she died. Now give great advice. And then
I got the answer.
I'll be like, so like I may or may not have to learn how to kill herself, but guess what? She's still out here living her best life, so what's good?
I'm like, dear God, what are you doing? With Linda right now. Linda, you there? Slap your mom. Oh my goodness.
I got the answer
I
yet.
felt her touch.
Yes, we're so forward.
Don't worry about what I'm doing.
Probably. But she actually like says that. Her husband, her dog, her daughter. She has her other kids and lives and stuff, but you know, I'll be like, honestly, it's okay. I'm like, I'll write nice to the side note. I'll be like, Mom, nothing that you did. It's okay. Call her. That's my fault. You're welcome. And I'll be like, make sure you invite her to my funeral so she can read the suicide note out loud. That'll be like, it started from, I forgot when our semester started. But I forgot the date, but you know, day game. I wonder how different my life would be if he was still alive, you know? Yeah. Probably like pretty different because I wouldn't have missed all those days. Then my grades would have just dropped me.
So much better.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
My mom would be depressed and like I would be having like really terrible dreams. Yeah, no, it was like last night was really bad. I couldn't even look at my brother. Like I wanted to stab him. Because look, the dream felt too real. I knew I was dreaming at a point, so I was like, but it was too many details that I could remember right now, like I'm talking to you. So it was like really weird. Because like I got in the car, and I realized that like when I got in the car, I was like, am I still dreaming? Because the car had too much details for me to be like, oh yeah, I'm still in a dream. I was like seriously like questioning myself, like just now what I was like, am I up or am I still dreaming? Was that real? So yeah. I was like, it's a dream. I was like, he was like, no, I'm just kidding. And it was like too many things that was happening. I'm just like, one, Janelle didn't come back, so she should have been here. So it's definitely a dream. And then he starts trying to sew my mouth. Because I want to go in the house. And he took it. But like, sometimes my brother just does stupid stuff like that. So like, it's like, I don't know if this is still a dream or he's just playing with me. I don't know. But it's very strange. I'm sick and tired of you. I love you. You little crackhead. Oh my God. And look at him now. So you feel him. Yeah. Really? What happened? I told guys that.
It's funny though. Why don't you do losers?
You're like, your grades are so bad.
I don't know.
You're such a disappointment.
The other problem is
Well, I'm making $9.50 an hour at my job.
Where you working?
Ocean View.
What's that?
It's a seafood restaurant. Just walk me to me, please.
Caleb never takes me anywhere. Caleb, I hate you. Never take me anywhere, huh?
I'm talking to Caleb, but I mean, he
I
can't.
know. What about it?
What do you do else you?
I'm a dishwasher.
I'm trying. Like I said, I'm probably a stupid job.
Wait.
You do realize we have like basically less than 2 weeks in school.
And how many classes are you
So,
5 you have?
6.
So we think we have
That's an all so. Am I? I don't know.
This fall.
Technically, yes.
Are you over there socializing? So over there socializing?
I have a 58. You need a 60 to pass. So I don't. At this point, I need to just pass. Okay. That's only for failing 2 classes, but that 2 classes adds up to 3 classes.
What do you mean that?
Because I have English. Yeah. So
Yeah, finish. I'm following.
because I already had opening in one of my.
Okay, I'm going to
So it's still gonna be like normal.
you're gonna find, because we're
I'm
only
just gonna have
go to
to
Molarity,
my last
you're gonna change that to mold, and you're gonna solve some blank.
Can't we just leave it in the same place?
Can you leave the same unit, so you gotta take Graham's mold. Cannot leave Graham's mold. The big M is Molarity. The Grahams have to be changed molds. And then you solve it from the all on top.
I don't like
You're
you.
gonna cross both lines back.
No, I'm not. You're just really mean to me. Yes, you are. You're really freaking mean.
Oh, never mind.
It's okay, you're bullying.
I'm coming. I saw them. I'm having problems over here.
What are you doing? I keep forgetting. She has to be alive.
She was just talking to me, and I was like, I don't get talking to you.
Linda, can you stop? Move your neck like that. Give me my pencil. I need to finish my work. Yes. Miss Wall.
Right, and then what?
I appreciate it. And stop.
Yeah.
No, I have not. She keeps taking my pencil.
I should get along, or I'm gonna separate.
Okay. Be quiet,
And you
Linda.
do .002 divided by 0.50.
This is Graham. Graham's has to be changed to what? Mold. Change that mold. Leave that in.
You want that
Solve
X.
it for the
You got
volume of the bond.
.003.
Miss Wall.
Okay, what?
A liter.
So that's that.
But
What
it
am I
says
supposed to do?
milliliters.
Now you're gonna switch to grams. Because that's mold. Change to grams.
No, leave it for units.
What was that called? Huh?
Yeah, you can just leave it.
Are you slut shaming me?
Yes.
Okay, I think I did that.
I don't appreciate being slut shamed. I'm not. I'm not. I'm not.
Don't look at me.
What are you doing?
You touched me in my shoulder. You're worse than Annabelle right now.
6.7, 1.65. But you
Six of the
you
abuse.
have multiple choice of the exam. If you're fine. Okay, that's where we're at. It's not about matching my numbers. Okay?
I don't know how much.
All right, who else has a question?
How do I get grams?
Mom's like,
The most.
yeah.
No, look.
Yes, it does.
How do you know?
Code things, the KOA.
Get their thing passes. The abuser. What was that?
Anybody else have a question that I haven't gotten to?
No, can you hear the answer?
Oh my god. Stop.
That's so much. It's well.
Yeah.
Shocked.
I wonder, like, has the camera
Perhaps
all
all
the
of these that's
teams
moving.
going up here sometimes? Has the camera all the teams that we released? Does that mean Miss Wall? I hope she does. Yeah, because it's not like she edited it or anything. She just put it on and took it off. I'm just like, girl, you need to cut some of that out because that's a lot of time.
Let me know when she comes. You will let me.
Hey, but that's mine.
It's the answer
It was
set. What did I do wrong?
Give me your.
No, it's just Here's okay. Here's you, that's in milliliters.
You're wrong. You got them all right.
What do y'all get? Homework?
If you didn't finish your homework, study for your quiz. I hadn't planned to. Math answers are up here.
Mean to me.
What?
Can you stop being mean to me? I swear, I'm gonna tell Miss Wall all the
I'm
tea.
sorry.